Welcome everyone to our fourth episode. Here we have Reb Yisroel Goldstein. I'm very excited to speak with him. And just before we get into it, I would like to remind you to subscribe, like, comment, and share to help the algorithm bring this to more people, to change life, to bring Moshiach. And also a disclaimer that this channel is to bring awareness, not to bash anyone. We want to make the world a better place to bring Moshiach. So, Reb Yisroel, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. Technically, I'm really just a guy living down the block in Crown Heights. At least that's how I often feel. Nothing particularly interesting other than I like the song goes, "Chotch michudi nashi pachki badi." I myself, I'm just another guy down here in Crown Heights, but my parents were the shluchim of the Rebbe in Madrid, Spain. I grew up all the way in Yehupitzville in Madrid, Spain, all my youth, and that's where I come from. And now, for the rest of my life, I struggle with what they imbued with me, which is what is my shlichus, and what am I supposed to be doing, other than just being another guy living in Crown Heights. So some people around town know me as the guy that's bringing up the topic and asking the questions about what's going on with Moshiach. What's the story? Wasn't that supposed to be the whole thing about what we're all about? We call ourselves Lubavitchers, and we wear the hat, and we wear the beard, and we wear the jacket, but we're supposed to, at some point, actually make it happen. But sometimes it feels like, another day goes by, another year goes by, and we go to work, we go to shul, we go to sleep, next day, and what's happening with that? It's taking too long. And so that's maybe a short version of what anyone might know me about.
Yeah, that's how I met you. I can't forget the Suchas Beis Sheva. While everyone is dancing, you're one of the only people who are like, wait, why are we dancing? What are we here for? We can't forget the Iker about Mashiach. And it's like kol hakavod to that. So you've been doing this for how many years? All your life?
Good question. I like that question. First of all, to clarify, Simchas Beis Sheva, the shlichus is really to dance. In fact, anyone who comes up with wise reasons why not to dance, maybe something is not okay over there, which might be an important commentary on myself. But anyway, good question, because I can count several years before I started this whole shtick where really the question was burning strongly and I was wondering about it, but I wasn't really sticking my head out of the water. I wasn't doing anything about it. I wasn't saying it. I was keeping quiet. I was keeping status quo. And I don't know, those years before are fascinating to me, because it's kind of like a story of many of us, maybe, where we know what could and should and are supposed to be happening, but we're not sure what to do about it. And so we don't really do much about it. And we go on with our lives another year and another year and another year. At some point, I think I vaguely remember when the numbers, the number of years since Gimel Tammuz keeps going up every year. So I think for some reason, when it reached somewhere like 23 or 24, I think that was the year that the whole Rabashkin coming out of prison happened, and a few other things like that. That was the year. For some reason, that number drove me nuts, and that's when I started kind of coming out of the Moshiach closet and started piping up about it, asking about it, and trying to help myself and help others around also, kind of like, why do we stay in this closet? Let's, lahavdil, in the world, in the American world nowadays, they have this concept about open up and come out of the closet and all that. And you know what? Maybe it has something kedusha about it, where if we feel like we're restricted and we can't and we're not allowed to, we're not used to talk about what's really under the table and on our minds, the elephant in the room. At about what are we now? We're already reaching up to the big 30 years since Gimel Tammuz or something like that.
Yeah.
So that's to a very, very long way to answer your question, about 6 years or so, more or less.
Wow. So what things came out of the closet so far?
Good question. Not enough, that's for sure. Definitely not enough. But hey, look, at least a little bit here and there. It's been great to see people respond to this question and this issue and kind of in their own little way get a moment, even just a moment of a feeling of like, what is the story with all that? And think about that and come out of the closet, even for just a moment. Even if afterwards we go back to regular status quo and we walk down the street and we go home and we forget about it. but at least for a minute to have a first exposure, which maybe will help down the line to have a second experience of it and a third, and at some point really wake up about it. But there have been a lot of reactions and a lot of accomplishments on many different levels. There have been from the tiny little minuscule developments, such as a person passing by down the road and saying something negative, even like oh, you're a crazy guy, or you're just driving people crazy, or there's something weird about you, or I think you snapped, or you went a little bit Moshiach crazy. Even that is something. All the way up to people who have taken on initiatives and started projects and gotten inspired and woken up and done different things to that effect, and things that have sent ripples. I can't take credit for things like you doing your amazing YouTube channel and all the interviews you're doing, and I would love to believe that some of that in part was maybe inspired by me spreading the message of like, hey, people, come out of your box, do something, say something, don't be afraid, make a thing happen, do a thing, don't be shy. I would love to think that my good friend Levi Jacobson and the various initiatives that he's taken on, and the expand770.com project and all that, I'd love to think that I had a little part in that. Various things that are still in the works and that are still developing, but arguably, like I started off saying, not enough. If Moshiach hasn't come yet, then what have we really gained?
Do you think we need something revolutionary new, or is it something that we're already doing, but we just need more of it, or both? Quantity and quality, in other words, in short.
Right. Very, very good question. Each one of these questions I can rant on about for hours. So I'm
we have hours.
Okay, great.
You can make a part two. You can make a part two. I'm actually 3 hours. We can make a part two. Okay, go ahead.
First of all, it's Bechlal. I just want to mention, I just mentioned briefly about you and your channel and everything. I just want to put it out there. I'm very impressed. I'm very inspired. I'm really impressed how you're ahead of the game than me in many ways, especially recently. I have tried my attempts at making a podcast kind of a thing and an interviewing kind of a thing to put the conversation out there and put thoughts out there and wake up the issue. I did it a few years back. I haven't followed up enough since then. I've maybe retreated a little bit into a bit of a status quo comfort zone again. It's easier
Why do you think that happened?
Quiet and just...
Why do you think that happened?
Let me get into that. Let me get into that. But first, I just want to point this out. You are right now in the present doing amazing things. And let's say, to answer a little bit your question, some of the reasons why that happens is for hesitation, such as, I want to make sure it's good and it's impressive and it's perfect and it comes across well, and the message is right. And, perfectionism. And
yes,
I'm very
I totally understand you.
Right? But I'm very inspired to see that despite the issue of perfectionism, and if I wanted to, I could nitpick and point out, I watched a little bit of your very interesting conversation about Fabrengens and about, the chinuch system and all that. And if I wanted to, I could be like, this is why I stopped or I paused for a while doing my own interviews and podcasts, because this is not exactly perfect and that is not exactly perfect. But here's the thing. You are doing something. And something is better than nothing. And it has so many advantages that you can't even imagine. It does put the conversation out there. It does start us somewhere. It gets you further down the experience line so that when it comes to making it more professional and more better, you already learned a lot more than I did because I didn't progress further than what I was doing.
Yeah.
You help the next guy like me and you to say, look, they didn't do it perfect in that podcast. And in that podcast, I'm going to do it better than theirs. And that's what we need. We need this kind of positive competition of like, look, they started it. They did a beautiful, nice idea, but it had this and that and the other imperfection. I'm going to go and do it better. That's what we want to do. You are helping, inspiring people nowadays to pioneer the next step and to take it further and to do it better. You're pioneering yourself to do it better. It's probably increasing in quality and in quantity every single episode that you do. So for all those many reasons, it's really amazing what you're doing. I'm cheering you on from the bleachers, and
Thank you.
This is really amazing.
Thank you.
Wishing you so much success, and yes, this is great. What you're doing is great.
Amazing.
So,
thank you.
Back to the question, which was, what was the question? Remind me.
No, I asked you why it stopped, and I was expecting that answer. That's why I only started when I started, because I also wanted it to be perfect. And like you did, and there were stuff, a lot of mistakes I learned, and I learned from them, made it better. But you know what? I probably would have never started if I wanted it to be perfect the first video. And when I asked you a question, do you think we need to continue more of what we're doing in quantity, or we need something totally new? In other words, quality.
Oh, yes. Very, very good question. Excellent. So I'm going to ask another question that many people ask me, which I think is the same question, or maybe it's different. You'll tell me. It's kind of a fear reaction that I get from many people when I come to them and I ask, hey, what is the story? What are we doing? We should be moving something. We should be shaking something. We're sleeping a little too much. It's status quo. We got to push the envelope further. And I think there's a bit of a fear reaction that I get from people, which is something to this effect of like, what do you say? No, we don't have to do any new things. We don't have to make up new things that weren't told to us clearly, that the Rebbe didn't say clearly. It's not good to be part of those kind of crazy people that make things up or invent new ideas or do crazy things. Why are you looking for new ideas? Why are you looking for new concepts to come up with? All we have to do, the Rebbe told us clearly in the Sichos. The Rebbe told us what we need to do. It's literally just, learn Tanya, learn Chassidus, be a good Yid, do Torah, do mitzvahs, do mivtzayim, and little by little spread the word and tell the world about Moshiach and teach about Moshiach and learn in Moshiach and all these things that the Rebbe told us. So there's kind of this dichotomy or this issue, the two sides of the coin of like, is there, I think it's similar to what you're asking, is there kind of a new idea or a new thing or out of the box or something crazy or drastic that needs to happen or needs to be done? Or is it just, are we doing, the basics or the status quo, the regular everyday things, the Torah mitzvahs, the mivtzayim, the usual stuff? Maybe we just have to do a good job or a better job or a more quantity job of that. And there's nothing to do about, looking for new things or fancy, exciting, flashy things to do. So I'm not sure if that's similar to the same question you're asking.
Yeah,
or if
it is.
It's something
it sounds the same.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So here are my thoughts. Both. I mean, in short, both. Meaning, there is I remember my father would tell me an interesting vart. So a teacher once asked students, what is the most important pasuk in Torah? And one of them raised their hand and says, Shema Yisrael Hashem Elokeinu Hashem Echad. One of them raised their hand and said, Anoichi Hashem Elokecha, Bereishis bara Elokim. And the teacher said the correct answer is, Es hakeves echad taseh v'beiker, ve'es hakeves hasheni taseh b'nei arbaim. The everyday, the usual, the tamid, the status quo is so important. And the Rebbe has been telling us this for years. Just be meisif in learning Torah with more sincerity, with more kavanah, davening with more sincerity, more kavanah, learning Chassidus, getting deeper into the inyanim of Chassidus, and doing more tzedakah, and doing more mivtzayim, etc., etc. That is like the actual meat and potatoes, the actual stuff that brings Moshiach. Is that if anyone tells you anything else, in that sense, they're incorrect. There's no other big ideas or out of the box or crazy things to go looking for. Sometimes you have to double check if someone has a specific inclination or a desire to want to go look for exciting, fancy things to do. It is justified to approach that with a little bit of suspicion. Are you sure that isn't just a bit of a distraction, a taiva? Your Yetzer Hara wants to do exciting, fun things, and it's using the excuse of, this is to bring Mashiach, or this is something to change the world, or, something? How is your everyday Es HaKeves Echad, B'Baiker, and Bein Arbaim doing? First, double check the Chitas Rambam, the Mikvah, the Rashi Rabbeinu Tam, the Mivtzayim, and then ask your mashpia and go from there. But there's something definitely to be said about the everyday, the usual Torah mitzvahs. That is what brings Moshiach. And it's a good question. Hey, can we do any helpful projects or initiatives about that to help ourselves and help each other and help everyone keep up with that? You know what? It's not always so easy, and maybe people fall out of their achlotas sometimes once in a while, and the Chitas Rambam got a little bit difficult. And, Baruch Hashem, today is Siyum Rambam. It's a good opportunity to start back up and Gimel Prakim for anyone who's been struggling with that. And, and Miftzayim at least once a week, etc., etc. There's definitely work to be done there. What are we doing about that? That's already something that could absolutely and is what brings Mashiach. Having said all that and putting all those disclaimers there, okay, so all of these mashpiyim that I'm already hearing yelling out from the side saying, no, nothing else, that's it, this is all, you only have to do the everyday regular stuff and you don't have to look for anything crazy. Yeah, fine, you're right. We have fully disclaimed that. Having fully disclaimed that, there are also additional things that the Rebbe mentions in multiple sichos. And it's a bit of a delicate topic, so I'm going to explain it with some of the issues that people have with it, and I'm going to explain it some understandings that I have of it. I'd love to hear some thoughts of how you feel about it. But there are different sichos and different teachings that the Rebbe tells us, which is something to the effect of do something out of the box. Be a chevraman. Get up and make a change. If you see the situation is stagnant, you should be the one to get up and make a change and do something. Be a Nachshon ben Aminadav. Be a Pinchas ben Elazar. Be someone who gets up and don't worry about, al tivesh mipnei amaligim. Don't be embarrassed about people pointing and laughing and making fun and calling you a meshuggner. It was just recently I saw this was a gem video a while ago, maybe a year ago or so. I don't remember, but it was something about the two challenging opposites of, on the one side, status quo and kind of like the older generation, and the rebelliousness of youth and the younger generation. And the Rebbe talks about the milas of both. The idea that there is something to it, that Hashem created this concept in the world, that young people see the world and they see the problems in it and they see what's wrong with it and they see what they want to change and correct and fix the whole world about it. And that's not a bad thing. That's a good force. That's a force for good and for good change. So do it and use it. And also listen and consult with those that are elder and get their advice and their guidance and be guided by them and do it correctly and do it according to Torah, etc., etc. And the Rebbe compares that sometimes what that means, the elderly and going and getting advice, that's the neshama. You have to also listen to the neshama. That's the guiding light from the Eibishter to tell you, to keep you on the right path of when, because being a youthful, rebellious person could lead the person in a lot of different ways and in all sorts of wild directions. So it has to be guided and a balance of both. Also the rebelliousness, which the older generation is not always going to like. The Rebbe points this out in the Sikha. It's something which sometimes annoys or bothers the elder generation. I'm paraphrasing. This is not the exact words of the Rebbe, but generally that concept. So there are sichos where the Rebbe says, the famous Chavches ניסן Sikha, tut alles was ihr kennt, do all you can and bring Mashiach. Oh, wait, we have a mashpia running in from the side here. He's telling us, no, you didn't understand. After that Sikha, the Rebbe walked upstairs and Rabbi Groner told him that the Chassidim are downstairs and they're making an emergency meeting and they're scratching their heads and they're trying to figure out what can they do because the Rebbe says, tut alles was ihr kennt and bring Mashiach. What do we do? And the Rebbe clearly answered that we don't have to go looking for new ideas. We don't have to go, I'm paraphrasing. This is not exactly the exact words. We don't have to go looking far. We just have to learn Torah, do mitzvahs, learn Chassidus, learn in Anagul Mashiach, give tzedakah, do mivtzaim. The Rebbe said that clearly. So, says this mashpia running in from the side, that's all it is. It's not any big, fanciful, we have to turn over the whole world or do something drastic or crazy. You just have to do what you have to do. See, proof. The Rebbe said clearly. Okay, I hear that. Fully disclaimed. But I think the Rebbe says both. The Rebbe says, tut alles was ihr kennt, do something out of the box. do something drastic, do something oiris de toyu in kelim de tikkun. I hear a lot of people making sure we know that it must be the kelim de tikkun. I don't necessarily find enough emphasis that you got to make sure it's oiris de toyu also, which is not always easy, and it's sometimes unfamiliar, and it's sometimes scary, and it's sometimes something which gives us a reflex of like, oh, no, not that. Let's not do that. Sometimes we do have to do that because that is the Eretz to tell you, as long as you manage to bring it down, Bekelim de Tikkun. So the point I'm trying to make is that when you generally ask around about this to many Chassidim and many Mashpim, you will often enough get the point that just do the everyday, the regular, do it better, do more quantity, do the usual stuff. And you don't have to go looking for something out of the box and something crazy and something out of this world and world shaking and whatever. No, that's wrong. That's incorrect. No, that's what you'll generally hear. Sometimes if you press them hard enough, or if you look enough in the sichos, I think there's the other point too. I think there's the point that, and if you see an opportunity, in fact, you should go looking for an opportunity where you could move something big or do something out of the box. Yes, we are sorely lacking in that, a lot. In fact, it's waiting for people to do something to that effect. I have this imagination in my mind as if the Rebbe made a mission file, top secret folder, and he put it up on the bima for everyone to see on that Chavches ניסן. The mission is here. It's outstanding. It's waiting for that 1 or 2 or 3 or 10 people who will come and take it and do it. Who is going to come and take it and do it? And you know what? The file, the folder is still there on the Rebbe's desk in the Rebbe's room, and it's still outstanding, and it's still waiting. And I understand, and I appreciate, and I fully respect, and they're right, all the people that say, you don't have to do anything out of the box, you don't have to do anything crazy, just continue doing your regular everyday Torah mitzvahs. And like I said in the beginning, yes, 100%, that is what's going to actually bring Moshiach. Yet at the same time, here we are, these many days later, these many weeks later, these many months, these many years later, and lepoil, it still hasn't happened. And for some odd reason, as long as it was only 5 years that happened, even 5 years, Mashpim were technically bringing all the years, that this can't happen even for another day, even for another minute, even for another second. Mashiach is coming now, take it from yet now. Well, I looked at the clock, 5 years went by, 10 years went by, 15 years went by, 20 years went by, and for some reason by year 24 or whatever it was, I think that there is a room to say at some point you got to be able to ask the question. At some point, it's okay to go and say, hey, look, I mean, I listened to what I was told to do, and I'm doing it as best as I can. And Adrabah, if we need to do it more, let's do it more. If we need to fix all of our regular everyday Chitas Rambam stuff, let's do that. But also, come on. I was accepting the answer of like, I don't know, we have to wait, Moshiach will come, it is what it is. I was accepting that for 5 years, for 10 years, for 15 years, for 20 years. At this point, I say, no, I can't accept that anymore. There's something else missing. We got to do the everyday, normal, usual stuff, plus something. There's something, as they say, je ne sais quoi. There's a something that we need to put in there that the Rebbe says, tut als was ihr kennt, change the world, make a difference. If you can do something, see something, say something, do something. And the fact that we aren't yet might be an issue. It might be we're a little bit shy, we're a little bit hesitant, we're a little bit like, I don't want to step out into the crazy circle because then they're going to call me Meshuganer, they're going to call me crazy, they're going to say I'm like one of those guys, etc., etc. It's a bit of an issue. We got to work through that. We got to overcome that. And yes, we do have to do something out of the box. So that's a long way of saying, I think both, if that answers what you were asking.
So if I understood you correctly, in short, I mean, I don't know if it doesn't matter how old you are exactly, but it's not like, I mean, 20 years ago, I'm assuming you were like a child or close to 20.
I was born in Memphov, so I was a child throughout the Nuns and a Bacher throughout the Samachs and Ayans.
So my point is that, like, I mean, if you were, let's say, in theory, the same age you are now back then, possibly you would have a different svara, different shita. So I'm saying that I'm trying to understand in what you're saying is that you thought until 24 years after Gimel Tammuz, you accepted the fact that no, we just need the regular day-to-day mitzvahs. And then now that it passed basically 25 years, it's like it can't be that all it is just the regular day-to-day. It has to be something out of the box. So I hear you. And yeah, like you said, it is both, or now more focusing on something out of the box because it just doesn't make sense what's going on over here. So then how do you explain specifically that incident you said about the Rebbe after Chavchas ניסן Sicha? The Rebbe said that I'm like, when I say tut al tavas your kent, I'm just talking about doing the regular Torah mitzvahs. I mean, personally, the only way I could explain it is that this is like digging deep into this is that I feel like part of the regular day-to-day is to think about something new. For example, I believe there's a Yom it says that every day it should be set every day to think about for a half hour about your children's chinuch. And that is not so it has basically the combination of both. You have the set every day, set half hour, but what you're thinking about in chinuch not necessarily is that so structured. It could be anything. It could be creative. So that's an example here where when the Rebbe says to do the regulars day-to-day things, well, part of being a regular day-to-day is to think about new ideas. That's the only explanation I could think of. What do you think?
I hear. Yeah, I think I'm going to say something similar. But again, very, very good question. And I could see hours of bringing and ranting just about this Nakuda. You're really bringing us the banging questions today. Excellent. All right. I think the Indian is Azoy. You get what you ask, I think. Like the famous story of the Chassidim of, who was it? The Chassidim of the Rashab, who were bringing a whole night. How could it be that the sheep that were walking over and licking the shoes of the Rashab or Marash, maybe, I can't remember exactly. How come they walked away as sheep? You come to a Rebbe, the only way you could walk away is as a Chassid. So how come they came, and they left as sheep? How is that possible? But they came with the answer, it must be that they came as sheep. And if they came as sheep with the sheepness and the animalness, so then you could even come to a Rebbe, and it could even happen that you leave as sheep. But if they came to begin with an inspiration and with a future of like, I'm going to turn into a Chassid, it's very possible that those sheep would have somehow turned into Chassidim. And so that's just a funny story, al derech hatzachus, but it's something that Chassidim bring about. That how your approach is, that is kind of the result that you get. What your expectations are, that might be the path along which you are guided. And this opens up another interesting can, not necessarily of worms. We're going to try to deworm this can. Which is the whole question about, if you notice my nice Yechi Yamok over here, which I would like to also explain about. I'm in my 2 weeks of Yechi Yamok. You see, I sometimes feel like you.
What do you mean? What do you mean by these 2 weeks?
Let me explain. I sometimes feel a little bit, kind of maybe like you, like I'm an outsider interviewing and looking in to Lubavitch, even though I'm a Lubavitcher myself. I'm on the inside and you are. But I sometimes like to pretend as if I have a camera, I'm a spy, I'm secretly going around and just analyzing things as if I'm an outsider. And it seems like this drives Lubavitchers nuts, and I love it. 2 weeks, I put on a Yechi Yamok, and all of all of the Chassidim that aren't usually used to that come over and demand, wait a minute, what happened to you? You turned into a Mishachist? How come you're wearing a Yechi Yamok? And that opens up an opportunity for a conversation, and we can discuss and we can talk about Moshiach. Then for 2 weeks, I take off this yarmulke and I put on my regular one. And now it drives all the other Chassidim crazy. And they come running on, what happened to you? You defected. You became a non-Mishachist. You took off your yarmulke. How dare you? How could this be? And that opens up another conversation that could, entertain more of the discussion. So I'm in those 2 weeks now. That's what I'm saying. So
I think it was a stressful process because if you weren't wearing a yarmulke, it would just be like no one. I don't know. I feel like it's a cause for more questions. Yeah, very good. So go ahead, yeah.
And the thing is that in that topic, the so-called, I really don't like using those labels. One day we have to do away with them and come up with proper, better terms, because for so many years they've been used, in a derogatory way and in a not way.
I've heard many so-called antis say that. What do you mean? I'm a Meshachis also, but the way the Olam interprets Meshachis, I'm not that type. But I don't want to be considered like an anti. It's not fair.
Beautiful. That's amazing. And I think that's also something that is taking much, much longer. The fact that it looked like a big divide, that you're either black or white, that went out there in the world. That concept was convinced in everyone's minds out there within days, within minutes. That took very, very quickly. What I realized myself over years and years and years, it took much longer, is that so many Chassidim are a lot more nuanced, and somewhere along the gray lines between, well, this, yes, but that not. I didn't know that. I was told, no, it's black and white. Either you're this or you're that. And I bought into that, and I believed that because that's what I was convinced. But in truth, it's a huge, spectrum or gray area or whatever you want to call it. So it's an interesting thing, but only the negative news gets a lot of PR, and everyone gets aware of machlokes and an argument and this side and that side. That part everyone unfortunately very quickly becomes aware of. What takes a lot more time to realize is that it is very nuanced, and a lot of people have a lot of things to say anywhere in between. Anyway, so on that topic, I think we had the similar question again. Which question were we trying to answer about?
Oh, before you brought up your yarmulke.
Yeah. What was the question I was going to rant next about?
No, continuing on how you combine both.
Yes.
Of the daily and the chidushim of life.
Right. I was making the point that you get what you ask for. On the whole topic of so-called Mishachistism and so-called non-Mishachistism, antiism, whatever you want to call it, on the whole so-called debate about did the Rebbe support this concept or did the Rebbe not support this concept? Did the Rebbe respond that he is to be identified as Moshiach, or did the Rebbe push that away and say not to do that? Did the Rebbe endorse this concept or not endorse this concept? Did the Rebbe edge it on or hint to it, or did the Rebbe stop it and say not to? And all of the proofs and sources that are brought to the table towards that, the proofs for and the proofs against, the times that the Rebbe clearly seems to have agreed with it and endorsed it and edged it on and encouraged it, and the times that the Rebbe clearly wrote and answered and said they shouldn't and they should stop and I have to take my name off of it, and if they keep doing it I might have to leave, and all the different times that the Rebbe said to this way and to that way, right, could bring up for anyone who wants to have ideally a open-minded discussion about it. If we don't have to necessarily be only black and white and say, no, I'm only looking on one and I'm not looking on the other, or the other way. If we could actually ask the question, hey, so can someone please explain this to me? What is the answer to that? On the one hand, it looks like the Rebbe says this, and on the other hand, it looks like the Rebbe says that. What is going on here, if I may ask? Usually we may not ask. In Lubavitch, we may only argue and yell about it, but we may not ask this question. But if we may ask this question, maybe the answer is you get what you ask for. And especially when it comes to the topic of very, very similar to what happened leading up to Yud Shvat Tafshin Yud, when people were writing into the Rebbe, Ksavis Kashrus, and pleading with the Rebbe, begging with the Rebbe with their lives, be the Rebbe, please take on the Nesius, and the Rebbe would push it away with both hands and say, if you keep asking this, I'm going to have to escape and I'm going to hide somewhere where you're not going to be able to find me, etc., etc. All these stories that we know from the year between Yud Shvat, Tafshin Yud, and Tafshin Yud Aleph until the Rebbe accepted the Nesius. When it comes to the sensitive topic of is the Rebbe, and if it comes to the sensitive topic of is the Rebbe Moshiach, it's a little bit tricky to ask the Rebbe's endorsement himself about whether he should endorse that he is Moshiach. It's a little bit of anyone can understand. It's a little bit of a catch-22 to ask the Rebbe himself to approve and to endorse whether to endorse that he is Moshiach. It's a tricky thing. And so I think what we could learn, the important lesson to learn out of the apparent, it's not really, but the apparent mixed messaging, so to speak, about the Rebbe's status about Moshiach and spreading the word about it and telling other people about it, etc., etc., I think that itself should be a very, very clear lesson and answer to all of us. It literally simply depends. It mamash depends. If you're in a situation, and everyone knows this, you ask this to any Mashiachist, you ask this to any anti, they will tell you literally this. It depends. If the crowd, and depends on who, and it depends on the situation, if it could come across in a constructive way, in a positive way, in an acceptable way, in a way that people chap it and people understand it, then of course, go ahead, and there you have all the answers of the Rebbe, encouraging it, and edging it on, and doing it, and yes, and tach v'tach, and people who wrote into the Rebbe, I made a tambourine with Yechi on it, and the Rebbe on the balcony encouraging Yechi, and all these different things, and people saying in our community, we accepted the Rebbe as Moshiach, and the Rebbe writing back positively about it. Then we have all of that in situations where it's good and it works, and it basically has the point of what Moshiach is even all about, is that it brings Achdus, it brings Avas Yisrael, and it brings an excitement to do more Torah and mitzvahs. Yes, and yes, and yes, 100%. It's almost as if, imagine, Moshe Rabbeinu shebechol der v'der, onav mikol adam al pnei adama, would even agree to be Mashiach if it means more people will do Torah and mitzvahs, if we want to call it that way. Whatever it is, yes, go for it. If it helps, if it encourages, the Rebbe would even agree to be Mashiach, so to speak, if we want to put it that way, if that's an acceptable way to present it. On the other hand, there are situations where it wasn't exactly Oiris de Toyo Bekelim de Tikkun, and it was a situation that maybe caused the opposite of Avas Yisrael, or caused issues or questions or difficulties. And there you have a lot of answers of the Rebbe, where the Rebbe said completely not, and better take off my name off of it. And the Torah doesn't say that it's a mitzvah deiraisa to call someone Moshiach or something like that, but the Torah says it is a mitzvah deiraisa to have Avas Yisrael, etc., etc. There you have all of those answers. So depending on who the person and who the situation is that is asking, that might be the kind of direction where you're leading to. Like, to begin with, the person asking, hey, Rebbe, hey, Moshiach, should I publicize to everyone that you're Rebbe and you're Moshiach or not? The person asking should turn around and ask themselves, what am I doing? Why am I even asking? What do I think I'm going to get out of asking? If you ask a silly question, you get a silly answer. If you ask a stupid question, you get a stupid answer. Like, if you're wise, you'll realize, I understand. If I do it good and I do a good job of it, then come and show your results. And the Rebbe will very likely be very happy with it. And if I don't do a good job, if you just want to use the Rebbe's answer as a proof, the Rebbe said I should publicize, the Rebbe endorsed it, the Rebbe said positive things, and you're using that as a hammer to beat other people, the Rebbe doesn't want to give that kind of endorsement. The Rebbe doesn't want to give that kind of encouragement. Just the Rebbe signed on it, I don't even have to think what Moshiach is, what Avas Yisrael is, what the whole goal of the whole thing is even. No, the Rebbe said, say it, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to say it despite you, and no matter what you think, and I don't care, I'm going to do that. That's not the correct idea. That's not the right idea. So if everyone stopped for a minute and thought, wait a minute, be a good Yid. Be a good Yid and you'll chap already, okay? Are you doing Chitas Rambam every day? Hello, sir. Are you doing Mivtzoyim at least once a week? Are you learning Chassidus? Have you been misbeinen in Gadlus Habayri a few minutes before Dav? Have you learned Tanya every day? Like, come on, be a good Yid, be a good Chassid. Remember what good Midas Tevis are. Remember what a person who is inspired by his Nefesh Elokis, who feels his connection with the Eibishter, really is like. Now, in that frame of mind, are you good? You got it? Are you hopping? Okay, now think about the question. Should we go out there and tell people Mashiach and not Mashiach? It's a completely different story. Wait a minute. There's Dira B'Tachtainim here. The Eibishter's world has a mission about it. I have a very proper, correct way of how I could go about doing that, and successfully, and in a good way, and in a happy way, and with Simcha, and with Avas Yisrael. If we're doing our everyday dailies correctly, and we're on the right track, and we have enough Torah mitzvahs backing us, that we have, I have my achlotes that I've been doing for months and months and years, and my mivtzoyim that's been increasing, and my shiurim, and my Yinanagul Mashiach. If you have enough backing you behind you, so to speak, you're going to succeed a lot more in your attempts and in your ventures and in your foray into what can we do in the world to bring Mashiach. But if, we're not doing enough of the everydailies, and we go straight to the question of, hey, I want to bring Mashiach right now, today, take it from Yad. The Rebbe says Mashiach is coming right now, take it from Yad. I want to do it right now, take it from Yad. Okay, fair enough. I mean, it's okay for any day to anyone to wake up and do whatever they can to bring Mashiach. Don't be surprised if you bump in the wall a little bit. Don't be surprised if you have some of the mashpim running in from the bleachers saying, no, this is not okay, this is not correct, this is meshugakite, this is crazy, you shouldn't be doing this. Don't be surprised if, do your everyday Torah mitzvahs and tzedakah and daven with kavana and nirashi rabbeinu tam and mivtzayim and chitas rambam and mikvah. Do all that. You're going to have a much, Bichlal, you're bringing Mashiach as it is, just by doing all that. That itself brings Mashiach. Then Mashiach has another soldier in the world that can actually productively make progress. So, I think that one really is the other in a way. I think that doing the everydailies is the most important first step in doing something out of the box. When people ask the Rebbe, when that thing happened by Chavches ניסן and upstairs, and it told to Rabbi Groner that the Chassidim are racking their brains and trying to figure out what to do, and the Rebbe answered they should do their everydailies. This is how I understand it. I understand it that the Rebbe is saying, what are they flying up in the sky looking for scary new ideas of how we're going to make a nuclear bomb or something? Get back to basics. Do your everydailies. Do your Torah mitzvahs. Do your Chitas Rambam. Do all the Hayrais that I did tell you guys. How well are you doing that already? And that's pretty feasible, okay? That's pretty doable. That's not even asking you to turn over the whole world like Stem and Amira. Just open a sefer, learn, and be into your chassidus, and tracht about the Eibishter, and be misbeinen, etc., etc. Then you're going to have a correct situation set up in your mind and your heart. You're going to be a soldier that I need to make this happen in the world. You'll understand already what you could and should be doing. And the ideas you come up, you're not even going to have to necessarily ask, should I, do I? Let's ask the Rebbe's confirmation, whether he confirms that he is Moshiach or not. Is that even how it works? When we had to name the Rebbe to be Rebbe, we couldn't ask the Rebbe for permission to ask him to be Rebbe. He just had to go be a real Chassid, down to your core, and he had to realize, even if the Rebbe says no, I have to be such a Chassidish chutzpaniak, if I have enough zchus to do that, if I did my Chitas Rambam every day as I should be, to go and tell the Rebbe, but Rebbe, b'mesiras nefesh, I insist. I am sorry. You told me no, but my job as a chassid is to insist. I heard of some really scary stories like that in that year between Tafshin Yud and Tafshin Yud Aleph. For example, one that stands out in my mind, maybe because I'm just particularly sensitive to awkward situations. I hear of a chassid that the Rebbe was making a point of trying to be as casual and as everybody else as he could be. Davka to make the point that I am not accepting about this whole Rebbe thing whatsoever. And at some point, it was Shabbos or something, I don't know, the Rebbe approached a chassid and stretched out his hand, Shalom Aleichem, or Good Shabbos, or something like that. And the Chassid instantly, in a second, I don't know, the Chassid must have been a real Chassid to know that this is the correct situation to do this. The Chassid stood his ground and stood like a soldier in front of the Rebbe and stated something to the effect that I cannot accept shaking the hand of the Rebbe because it is not the derech of Chassidim to shake the Rebbe's hand. I guess a particular nimus, how do you say, like a part of the etiquette in Lubavitch of between Chassidim and the Rebbe is that you don't just every day go and shake the Rebbe's hand. No one ever usually did that. The ones you see doing that are people from other communities or whatever who come by dollars and they don't know really how it works, and they take the Rebbe's hand and they kiss the Rebbe's hand. You know, they pasha don't know the etiquette. The etiquette al pi Chassidus, al pi emes, is that the Moshe Rabbeinu Shebederenu that is standing in front of us, you don't just stretch out your hand and shake the Rebbe's hand. And this Chassid believed it so strong that he was willing to put himself in the awkward position of refusing the Rebbe's hand stretching out to shake his hand. And he stood there for a minute, and at the end, the Rebbe took his hand back. And I don't know, I think it's described that his face became serious or I don't know, like in some way it impressed, or it was accepted, or the Rebbe realized he's serious or something like that. I don't know, at least that's how I remember vaguely from how the story was told to me. So a Chassid who's really, really on the right track will know how to do and what to do. And I think the Rebbe was telling them, first of all, make sure you're on the right track.
Sorry to disturb. And it's a little of a side point, but it's actually, you brought up something that it's a little bit on the side, but I very much want to talk about. So why is it that the Rebbe is, so to say, tricking us? And it's not, and this is a more general question. I'll give you another example, and it also has to do with Chassidim greeting the Rebbe. By Yechidus, very often the Rebbe would ask you to sit down, offer you this, offer you that, and they tell you whatever the Rebbe offers you, decline. Another example where the Rebbe offered someone to go in the car with him, and he declined. I always wondered, why is the Rebbe doing that? It sounds like he's tricking us. Like he wants to see if we're really Chassidim and we're supposed to refuse it. Just a side question. I think it's important to understand what's this.
Good question. I think, on the one hand, I don't know if we should think that the Rebbe at any point is being any kind of insincere. Although I wouldn't. It's also possible that the Rebbe mamash sometimes tests people. It could be. If it's an outsider, so to speak, an outsider. I don't know, someone who's not really familiar with how Chassidim and Rebbe works and all that. I'm definitely sure the Rebbe is not testing that person. So if anything like that kind of interaction happened with a person of the outside or whatever, and the Rebbe is offering a cheer or offering something, I think that should be taken literally. But with perhaps a chassid on the inside or the inner circles or someone who the Rebbe would expect knows how it works, it could be that mamash, the Rebbe sometimes mamash tests someone. But other than that, I think I would go more with the pshat of, how about this? The Rebbe is being sincere. The Rebbe is literally, sincerely just offering a cheer and offering, because you know what? The Rebbe is also a dugmach among everything else that the Rebbe is, which we can't even describe in full. But the Rebbe is also a big dugmachaya of how to be a mensch and how to be polite and how to have nimus and derech eretz and all that. So naturally, if the Rebbe is in a situation where it's polite to, offer a cheer, offer a cup or something, then the Rebbe does that. And you know what? If someone actually, ignorantly, definitely is fine. But even innocently just accepted it, I think the Rebbe has no qualms with that. And there's no issue about that per se. And just the person themselves could maybe go on later and ponder and contemplate, maybe I could be a better chassid because it's not the right etiquette to accept when the Rebbe offers because the Rebbe offers, but I as a chassid am supposed to not accept or something like that. And then there are those chassidim that were such chassidim of the inner circle that they could be hamish, so to speak, with the Rebbe even, or I don't know, who was it that had an open ticket at any point to knock on the Rebbe's door and walk in? There was a few chassidim like that could anytime walk in, right? And they actually made use of that privilege. And it's not like they were being in any way, I think, disrespectful. I think when you talk to chassidim that talk about, etiquette and how to refuse if the Rebbe offers this or that. Even they would agree. These Chassidim, when they walked in or when they accepted something that the Rebbe offered, which normally you would have to refuse, but if you have that level of mamash, pure, childlike sincerity, a real deep chassid connection to the Rebbe, you could even be at a point of accepting it at some level. Again, it's not for everyone. And so anyone who humbly realizes they're not there at all, their position and their behavior should be not to accept. So it's a little bit nuanced over there. I think I labeled about like 4 different levels on the on the ladder.
Okay, I appreciate that. It was a side point that I just really want to touch upon. Okay, now back to you mentioned this. It came up because you mentioned the story of Touch and Yud, and your point, I believe, was that what was your point? You're getting, I mean, about when you're first do the basics and you have that feeling of iskashrus, then automatically the appropriate thing is, the next step is to, what about Mashiach? What are we accepting the Rebbe's Mashiach automatically? I think that was your point, yeah? You're getting to.
Something to that effect. I think the idea is, if anyone's asking, double check where you're holding with the basics.
Right.
Like,
right.
why are we even asking? First of all,
it's supposed to be automatic. It's supposed to be automatic. Like automatically, if you're a proper yid, a proper chassid, automatically, you should know automatically that the Rebbe is Mashiach and you should do something about it.
Something to that effect. I think that was a large point of also the Sikha itself in Chavches ניסן. It was this idea that, like, Yidden, if you're real and you're sincere, then by this point, there should have been some Yidden that really call out to Hashem ad Mosai Daloi Golus, like really sincerely feel with the emes that, and the Eibishter would answer, and the Eibishter would immediately bring Geula, like a child calling out to their father and all that. So we gotta, double check where we're holding with all that. If that hasn't happened yet, we gotta get to a point where we're really, really sincerely there, to a point where you don't have to be handheld every step of the way. Chassidim like to be robots that, Rebbe, tell me what to do and I will do it. And they've done that pattern for years. And the Rebbe sent out shluchim, and the Rebbe told people to go do shlichusin for him and messengers to do things and to take care of certain projects and stuff. And they did it, and they followed instructions, and they were good robots. But in this sikha, the Rebbe said, we need the next step. Okay, I see you could be good robots. Thank you. You could be very good people that listen and follow instructions. Now we need the next level. I can't be hand-holding you at that level. You guys, I'm giving it over to each and every one of you. I need you guys to chap. You guys need to chap. And I think part of what went on there with Rabbi Groner telling the Rebbe that Chassidim are sitting down and cracking their head to figure out what to do was a kind of asking. And you don't ask. You don't ask.
They lost the point. You mean they're missing the point?
Yes.
So, based on your explanation, like, how can you? It makes so much sense. Like, so how can there be two sides? Like, how can this should be the middle ground, which everyone should agree to? Like, I don't understand. How can you not agree to what you just said?
Well, which part? I mean, I don't think what I described right now is particularly on the issue of Mashiachism and not Mashiachism. I think it's more on the side of regard. And by the way, this has generally been my attempted approach. I try not to get into the weeds of like Mashiachism and non-Mashiachism. I try to just say, wait, regardless, okay? I'll take off the Yechi Yamelka and I'll put on my other Yamelka for now, okay? Regardless, if we say Yechi, Chai V'Kayam, or if we say Ziyah, Oihel, either way, hello, we're Chassidim of the Rebbe, and either way, the Rebbe says what he says, and the Rebbe expects what he expects. And the Rebbe said clearly from day one that we are bringing Mashiach, like that's literally the whole thing. And then the Rebbe starts speaking more and more strongly how it is soon, and it is here, and it is now, and it is Tekef Umiyad, and we're supposed to, it should have already been here, like first the Rebbe would speak like in the near future, and then in the immediate, and then in the past. Like it is already here, and it's already happening, and it's already behind us. So what's going on? So why isn't it happening yet? We have to do one last thing. We have to do one more thing. We have to add one more thing. So I try to take the approach of like, I'm not interested. Don't talk to me about the whole Mishachist thing. Either way, if you're a Mishachist, I'll talk to you. If you're an anti, I'll talk to you. I want to know one thing. Not if you're going to say Ziyah or Chai V'Kayam. Not if you're going to say Yechi or OBM. I want to know one thing. When are we finally making it happen? Either way, this way or that way. When are we finally making it happen? The Rebbe said we're going to bring Moshiach. What's up with that? Let's Taka do that. Anyone? Someday? Sometime? I mean, like, what's going on with that?
Right.
So
I believe. Well, okay, now we're getting into nitty gritties of it. I mean, again, it doesn't take away from what you said. I don't think either side will disagree with what you said. That, like, to paraphrase how I understood what you said, is that if you are doing the basics, if you're doing the dailies, and you're very makosher, automatically you realize that the proper thing to do, and you should do it without even being asked, because it's just like the proper thing by Tafshin Yud was to accept the Rebbe as Rebbe, even though he denied it. Same here, that the proper thing to do automatically when you're doing all the daily Torah mitzvahs is to accept the Rebbe as Mashiach, like because we need Mashiach, the Rebbe qualifies, and that's it. You can't. There's nothing to do with, like, how. Okay, so now you're getting technical. How you're supposed to do it exactly, this and that. Like, I think it's almost, if I could use the word, babyish. Like, that's like the foundation. The foundation is that we like do the basics and you accept. Like, I don't know. I don't understand how someone can argue. We need to hear another side or something.
Look, to be fully politically correct, let's put it this way. If you do, then you do. What I mean by that is, if you do your dailies and your everydays and you're strongly mekushar, and you then feel and see and you learn and you understand that we should be accepting the Rebbe as Moshiach, then go ahead and do so. Implying also, if you do not yet, okay, with all the respect to all Mishachistim, and with equal respect to all Yidden, and to all those that are not so-called Mishachistim. Again, I don't like the labels and all that. Fine. That's perfectly fine. Be a good Yid, but really be a good Yid. Really sincerely do your Chitas Rambam and your Miftzayim and all that. And whatever you naturally, sincerely, be'emes, come to, go for it. If you come to that the Rebbe is Mashiach and we should be spreading and accepting that, I believe it'll work sincerely, because if you're really, really there, it'll taka work successfully.
Right.
And if you come to a different conclusion somehow that no, but the Rebbe said not, or maybe it was an Eis Ratzon at some point, but then after Gimel Tammuz things change, I don't know. You know what? Fine. As long as you're doing the everyday dailies and you're Mekusher all the way, etc., I still sincerely believe you're onto something. And the only thing that I would ask you is, look, what do we do about the mission sitting on the Rebbe's table? What do we do about the Chavches ניסן? The Rebbe says, I'm giving this over to each and every one of you, and we should do all we can and bring Mashiach. And here we are X years later. So for me personally, up to year number 24, I still felt like Big Bro will take care of it. All the big mashpiyim with big beards, and all those that are in charge of Lubavitch, and all those rabbanim, and all those intimidating entities that I'm just little me. Who am I? I'm just another guy that came out of yeshiva. What do I have anything to do with it? For sure, someone is taking care of Lubavitch and taking care of this project. And if anything needs to happen about it, surely they're doing something about it. So I'm just going to continue just being me in my little corner, and I have nothing to do with that at all. At some point, at that year number 24 or whatever, for some reason, then it started clicking to me, and it also actually helped, to their credit, so to speak, to all these big beards, mashpim, rabbanim, to their credit, I came over to them, several of them, many of them, in private, one-on-one, and I asked them about this, and many of them told me, you are onto something. Don't wait for us. Do not think that you should rely on Big Bro. Big Bro will do nothing. You waited last year for Big Bro, that nothing happened. Don't wait for Big Bro. So to their credit, I have some rabbanim and mashpiyim with big beards in Lubavitch.
Giving you the endorsement.
whatever endorsement to the concept that, hey, don't wait for big bro. If you're ever wondering, if you're not wondering, fine, enjoy life. Zaya gute yid and enjoy. But if anyone is wondering, what's the story with this whole world and dira b'tachtonim and life and the goal that we're supposed to bring Moshiach? If you're wondering, step up, because don't wait for big bro. At least that's in my own personal experience what I've heard and been told about that. But this is to get back to the point of what again?
Wait, can I continue off where you left off?
Sure.
You watched my video where I spoke myself about Moshiach, and
was it one of the short ones or a longer one?
Yeah, the short ones with Elon Musk.
I may have. I don't remember maybe offhand, but I think I watched those. Yeah.
So I'll mention the point I said there, maybe a little different words, because possibly, we keep having this mindset. And I think I did also, because everyone thinks this way, that Mashiach is supposed to be a sudden thing. He's here. But possibly, no, on the contrary. And I'll be tired on it, especially the Rebbe stressed this all the time, Al Pi Chabad. Mashiach's all about not breaking the rules of nature. It's about being extremely natural. And part of that is that he doesn't come suddenly. He comes in a natural way. Now, it doesn't take away that it can be a combination of both, where there's a story of how the Rebbe there was sudden talking about how Mashiach's going to come, and then the Rebbe all of a sudden opened the door, something like that. And the Rebbe said, Mashiach will come, and they were like, you expect it, but when it comes, it's still unexpected. So it's natural. It didn't break any rules of nature, but it was still, when it comes, it's unexpected. But my point is that it's like the Rebbe said, Mashiach's here. Mashiach's in the past already. We don't see it. So I think this question is coming from this mindset that Mashiach has to be this sudden change, but that goes contrary to what we learn in Chassidus, that Mashiach is not supposed to break nature. Mashiach is natural. And the point and to now what I was saying in that video about Elon Musk is that you're seeing how, for example, they say when Mashiach comes, everything will be done for us. Who is that everything and everyone that's going to be done for us? That practically we're thinking what do you mean? Who's going to bake the bread for us? Who's going to do the laundry? We're already seeing that you have even washing machines is already a step up. We started it's so much faster. And now you can you already see that we're paving the way that robots will basically do all our chores for us. So, but the thing is, you can't do these things in 1 second. It takes time for these, the evolution of technology, of AI. So again, my point is in short that Mashiach, when the Rebbe says Mashiach's here, he's here, but it takes time to get to that stage. Does that make sense? Is that a possibility?
I hear what you're saying. So the only question that could come after that is, but wait a minute, I'm a big chassid of the Rebbe. I believe in every word the Rebbe says is coming out of the Shechina, and Moshe Rabbeinu is saying it, etc., etc. And the Rebbe so many times speaks in such immediate terms, takef and miyad and mamosh and now, etc., etc., etc. And the question is even stronger after, especially if every word the Rebbe says is true, and it is takef miyad, and it is now, and it is mamosh, and here we are 30 years later, almost as if yeah, you're right, it is gradual. It could be somehow takef miyad mamosh, because every word the Rebbe says is true, but still somehow take so far 30 years. How do you resolve that? So I have my thoughts on that, but any thoughts you have about that? I'm curious.
Yeah, I guess this is totally personal. What I think, based on the explanation that I said, it's gradual. Possibly when the Rebbe said stuff, when read it mainly in the late 80s and 90s, when the Rebbe said something like Mashiach's here right now, Mashiach's in the past, all that, I guess right when the Rebbe was saying those things, there was something revolutionary innovation going on in the world that all of a sudden happened when the Rebbe said those words. That is a major stepping stone, I think that's the right word, for Mashiach. For for example, the Rebbe said things like, starting from in 1953, when the Rebbe said, "Hoorah!" We all know that he caused that Stalin should move on, and it's known that like in this really goes back. We know how Chassidus, the more it was getting revealed, the more technology was getting revealed in the world, and then the Rebbe, it was like a whole nother level, much faster in a much greater way. Because the Rebbe spread Chassidus in a way that was like much more than any other Rebbe, and that's why technology was way more. So I believe specifically with Moshiach, I believe possibly that when the Rebbe was saying stuff like Moshiach's here right now, there was something going on in the world, even though it's a spark, something that happened that is like, so let's say in that video which Elon Musk I made, I my personal opinion is possibly this is the beginning to Tchias HaMesim. That Tchias HaMesim doesn't have to be a miracle. It can be actually natural, that he found a way to bring back people from the dead because he's combining technology with human beings. So, but that AI possibly started when the Rebbe said those words, the Mashiach's here. And that was the beginning of it. That was a spark. Like, there's no one knew about it then because technology wasn't as it is now. But that was the beginning of it. That's my personal hergish. What I think. What do you think about that?
And so this goes. I need to basically get back to the main point, which is the triple M or quadruple M, the magic Mashiach moment, or the magic Mashiach. I forgot what it is. Anyway,
marvelous.
It's something like that. The fantasy magic Moshiach moment and the myth about it and what is true about it and what isn't true about it. But just to finish off this last thought, let me just ask you back again. So what do you make of the fact that it seems like in many of the sikhs the Rebbe says that not just now is starting, and that it might take more time until whatever, but Beis Hamikdash Hashlishi, Ubirushalayim HaKodesh, Ubahar HaKodesh, and we'll be in time for Mincha, and we'll be able to bring the Karban in the Beis Hamikdash, and we're already sitting at the Seudah of Mashiach, and we have the Shirabar, and we have the Levyasan, and we have the Ayin HaMeshumar, and we can already be in this instant in the Beis Hamikdash Hashlishi. It really sounded like the Rebbe was speaking about a concept. Again, I don't think anyone in the moment knew how to make sense of it, and now maybe we have years to think about it.
Is there anyone that could make sense of that? Does anyone have an explanation for that? So what I think, because I know, yeah, it sounds insane, but and what I'm saying now could also sound insane, because I mean, yeah, what the Rebbe said is crazy in a good way, but the only explanation I think is that, I'll give you an example. It's crazy things but Nikola Tesla, he was one of the pillars of the foundation pillars of technology, and it's unfortunate that they basically didn't give him the platform to really reveal all the wisdom that he had about technology and all of that. So I'm using that as an example that it could be, it's crazy, but it could be that there is a technology that could have been revealed that somehow it's not breaking the rules of nature, and somehow everything can be done in 1 second. Like, for example, possibly, I think they already started this, space travel in 1 second. So when the Rebbe said, will be this second for Mincha in Yerushalayim, it could be if human beings wouldn't get in the way of the klipa, wouldn't get in the way, and we would be able to get, like, and I'm again using an example of Nikola Tesla. If they gave him the platform to express his technology, then possibly we would have already the technology that we can be space traveling in 1 second, and we could create the Ayin HaMeshumar in 1 second, and we'll have detectors that will find the Arain, and we'll do this all in 1 second, and it's all natural. That's my crazy explanation.
And I have similar, if not more crazy theories as well of how it could work out and make sense. Like when you think about, I don't know, concepts that even nowadays in the Goyish world are becoming more and more known, but they kind of help in certain ways to at least imagine or fathom or theorize how such things could be real. But when you think about concepts such as the multiverse, that the possibility of different futures could both be happening simultaneously in different places or something like that. Or even more than that, different realities happening quantumly or string theoryly somehow.
Yeah, quantum physics, it's a whole thing. It's yeah.
Right? That they could both be branching off, two different futures could be branching off all at the same time in the same place. And it's not an issue physically, like it's not a problem for it to be at the same time and at the same place. And many other different concepts like that I don't remember off the top of my head, but it really, they are theorizing about these kinds of things in actual science these days. And the point that I want to make is it's not completely far-fetched. You know, maybe 10 years ago, whatever, 50 years ago, 100 years ago, you tell a story of the Baal Shem Tov, that, wow, the Baal Shem Tov could be in two different places at the same time. He was also sitting there in Fabring with the Chassidim, and at the same time, he was also by that other place. And you know what? Give it a little bit of time. Soon enough, it's going to be like, oh, yeah, we have that technology.
Right.
It happens to be a way how the world works. If you tap into certain koiches of how the Eibishter made the world to begin with, this was always here. This was always a possibility. It wasn't the right time and the situation and the person to reveal it yet. So it's all, the koyach has always been there. The Baal Shem Tov, being such an, such a tzaddik as he was tuned into, he was able to tap into these powers. You tap into the power of Torah. You could see the whole world from one end to the end. And it's like, it's not even necessarily so much to believe that it's some sort of spiritual, miraculous miracle. No, it could mamash be through the tools of Gashmius that the Eibishter has already instituted in the world from the beginning, and you just got to know how it works and how to tap into it. And when the world gets closer and readier for it, then more and more is revealed. So again, if you explain to anyone 100 years ago that, you could have something as big and as heavy as a building flying up in the sky, they would never believe you. And now we have airplanes and engines and rockets. And that, you could have a piece of knowledge that thousands or millions of people's brains sink in 1 second instantly are aware of or see or experience at the same time. No one would believe it. Now with the internet and mobile devices and everything, oh yeah, for sure, we have that technology. The time has come. We've reached a point where that can happen. And there's so much more of that. If anyone thinks like we've reached the end, or okay, this is as crazy as it gets, nothing will be more breaking than this, you're completely wrong. It's going to keep going.
Yeah.
Wackier and wackier. We are like those people 100 years ago that say, no, it's impossible that you would fly. No, it's impossible that millions of people at the same time could have. We are like right now just like that if we think that it isn't going to get even wackier and crazier down the line. So right. I think it's totally feasible. Mm-hmm. Not just that in an instant it was, it's just a theory. Tell me what you think. I think the Rebbe would have expressed something to the effect that if only we could or we would, then it would be possible in this instant to go and have Shera Bar in front of us and wine in front of us and the I think the Rebbe, every word is exact. And the Rebbe said, we are by the Seudah with the wine and with the Levyasan and with the Shera Habar, which is a wacky thing to think about. Imagine, I don't know, for some.
Had to be kipshutai. The Rebbe was for sure talking kipshutai.
It totally could be in ways we don't even chap yet. But I'm telling you, the day will come one day where we will look back and realize, oh yeah, of course, we were actually sitting at the Seudah, Shera Bar and Levyasan and Yainam Shumar and everything. It was literally there in front of us, and it's tough to tune in and really chap and see it, but the Rebbe did give us tools and things with which to try to do that. The Rebbe says, for example, the Rebbe came up with this catchphrase of "open up your eyes." Like right. It is really something like a mystery book or whatever, a movie or whatever, where at some point it's like you hear a knock on the door, hello, and you're like turning around. There is no door. Where is this knocking come from? Open your eyes, realize you're not in the place that you think you are. You're in a different place, and the plot twists comes out, and really you're someone else, somewhere else entirely, and you had some curtain pulled in front of your eyes, but really it was something else and whatever. And the Rebbe is standing outside and seeing what is really going on. And the Rebbe knows that we are in the system where it looks like I'm sitting at a table with a chair and I'm in a room and there's a wall and that's where I am. And the Rebbe says, yes, my child, I know it looks that way. I know it seems that way. But I'm telling you, from up here, I'm seeing what's really going on. We are in Geula. Mashiach is here. We are sitting at the table with the Yain, Amashumer, with everything.
Is there a thing that when Mashiach comes, the whole world will be like the Kodesh HaKadoshim? Is that a thing?
I vaguely remember. Maybe I wouldn't be surprised if someone shows me a quote
I'm
like
saying that because the concept in the Kodesh HaKadoshim that the Aron took up space and didn't take up space.
Yes.
So that's what the Rebbe was talking about. That what do you mean? I don't see the Yain and Shomer and this and that. But it's like the same thing. Like the Aron took up space and didn't take up space.
Yes. And we are only seeing one side of that equation, and we're not seeing the side where we are actually. The Aron is Minamidah, but it is not Minamidah. We're not seeing both. We're only seeing one side. So it only looks like the illusion side, but we're not seeing the reality side yet. And the Rebbe gave us tools. How do we open our eyes? Okay, you know what, Rebbe? I'll go into this wacky, crazy frame of mind where, like, you know what? I agree. I'm not seeing it, and I believe that if I want to, I can see it. How can I see it? The Rebbe says, open up a Sefer Chassidus, learn deeply about the Eibishter, and specifically learn about Inyanim of Geula and Moshiach, and you're going to start realizing and seeing things that you've never chapped before. And like you said before, and I want to get back to the main point about the magic Moshiach moment, that the Rebbe seems to have been telling us now, take it from Yad Moshiach is here, but we don't see it. But a lot of the messaging that the Rebbe has been trying to infuse us in, especially the most recent years, was open up your eyes and realize and see it is here. And the Rebbe even helped us a little bit and gave us here's a 4 Dummies 101, how to look and see and realize things happening in the world. And the Rebbe gave specific examples, training materials, tutorials. Here, look at what's happening in the Gulf War. Look at what's happening with the Iron Curtain. Look at what's happening in the world with technology and with Umas Ha'olam doing chesed for no reason. And all of these things, let me train you how to think. I know that mass media and the world just wants to paint you a picture of that's a one-off, or this happens, or, nations sometimes do that, or the world is progressing, or they were forced to this, or it wasn't really because of that. It's just because that's how the world works. The Rebbe says, no, that's not the correct way how to look at it. Start training and exercising your brain to realize when that happens, no matter what everyone else says, let everyone else be pessimistic and cynical, you realize this is a Mashiach development. This is an actual thing happening in the world that isn't the real reality that's going on, which only people later, much later down the line, or however long down the line, hopefully not too long down the line, will realize, actually all along, when I was being cynical and when I was being skeptical, that really was how did you know that was Mashiach all along? Did someone give you a cheat code? Did someone teach you about that? Yeah, actually, the Rebbe did. He gave us the tools, he gave us the material with which to realize that this is already the truth that's happening already now in advance. Look at everything happening in the world already then in 90, 91, 92, but especially by now with, like you said, all these developments that Elon Musk is coming up with and so many other sciences are coming up with. We're way, way, way ahead of where things were back then. And so we can see it if we want to, but I totally understand if we still might have a gullus reflex of but we don't see it yet. I feel like that every single day. And I fall back into okay, be realistic. Come on, be real. The world is the world. The reality is the reality. The way the world spins it is probably most likely what's really going on. Mashiach world, that's not actually here yet. It's not really actually what's going on in reality. It is what it is. And I fall back into that thinking all the time. And it takes practice. It's like going to the gym. You got to really exercise it until you really get used to more and more feeling, seeing, and realizing what is really, really going on in the world. So to the main point about the Moshiach myth, yes, we have all somehow at some point been convinced, we've been brainwashed with the 5-year-old magic Moshiach moment story.
Right.
That one day suddenly, the shofar is going to sound, and the heavens are going to open up, and all the Yidden are going to stand around in a big circle and look up and say, wow. And Moshiach is going to come flying down from the sky, and he's going to say, I am Melech HaMashiach. And all the Yidden in unison will say, yes, Amen, and we accept you, and Baruch Hashem, and right? Okay, so that's the magic Mashiach myth that that we've all been convinced of. And it's important to say here, I'm not only going to bust the myth, I'm also going to substantiate what is true about it. It's not completely false. There is a nevuah that there will be a sound of the shofar to wake us up out of Golus, and it is a nevuah that Moshiach will come either on a chamayr or on an ishmael or whatever it is, and it is a nevuah that.
Oh, we can be here till tomorrow if you want to go through every single thing that.
Right.
There's like a million stuff it says it's going to happen.
Yes, 100%. And the Beis Hamikdash will come down from the sky, etc., etc. So all that is true, but maybe it's very important to chap, like what you were saying about it possibly being a progression that is very natural, that it's not only this we should be able to this idea maybe is worthwhile spreading out there and helping people get deprogrammed from and deconvinced of. Yeah. It's not exclusively only a sudden magic Mashiach moment. It could be also that, but it's not exclusively that, such that I very quickly, very easily can validate or invalidate whether Mashiach is here. Very simple checklist. There's one item on the checklist. Has it suddenly happened that the shofar is blowing and the clouds are opening? Oh, no, that didn't happen. Therefore, ergo, this is not Moshiach. If Tzaddik has over years and years developed a following and Chassidim, and eventually after many years, they've come to realize by halachic standards and by certain indications that perhaps maybe he is Moshiach, maybe he's even Chezkas Moshiach, and the rumor is spreading, and over years, maybe yes and maybe not, and there are supporters and detractors. No, that's not Moshiach. Moshiach can't come that way. Moshiach can only come the way that is suddenly popping out of the sky. That is the myth that I believe is worth busting. Moshiach will come out of the sky. The shofar will blow, but that's not the only approach or way or expectation how Moshiach comes. Moshiach can also, not excluding the other ones, but he can also come in this way or in that way or the other way. He could come in a progression like you described. He could come in a natural developmental way as we see happening in the world. And it could be similar to, like in the days of David HaMelech. Not all the Yidden immediately accepted him right away, and he was chased around, and it was a difficult thing. And there were protractors and detractors, and there were supporters and those against, and there were even wars and different things and whatever. It wasn't so simple. It wasn't so easy. Anyone who thinks that it's necessarily supposed to be an immediate magic, easy thing, what do you think? How well do you think you would fare in Machlokas Kairach v'Chol Adosai? Are you sure 100,000,000% that you would be on the side of Moshe Rabbeinu, or are you open-minded enough to realize, hey, why did those people who were convinced by Kairach? How were they convinced? Were they smart? Were they stupid? Were they open-minded?
Right. That's a very good point to mention. That Kairach, I was thinking of another example by the Cheta Ego. Like how stupid could he be?
Yeah.
How stupid could they be? Not trust him.
Yeah. And by the man, and by all the 10 tests that the Yidden failed by the Eibishter, and that the Yidden made problems about, and the Yidden kvetched and the Yidden complained, are you sure you would be such a big tzaddik back then that you would only be among them? Maybe you would. I don't want to, and I'm not talking to you personally. I'm talking to the listener or myself or anyone. Like, are we sure that we would have mamash? Oh yeah, all these stories that I always hear in the parsha of the week and the Yidden in the Midbar, I would definitely always have been on the goody side. Are we 100% sure of that?
There's a story. You know the story. There was I forgot who it was. He was a sheep. He was a gilgal of a sheep. You know that what I'm talking about?
It rings a bell.
It was some tzaddik, roughly 500 years ago, roughly, and he said that he remembers being a gilgal of a sheep in the times of Kairach. Wow. And he said that even though he was a sheep, he was able to understand what was going on. And he said that if you were there, you would go be on Kairach's side. Trust me. That's what he said. Something like that.
This is a very important point. And people who laugh that off and say, nah, I would be a goody. I think they need to be wiser than that. We need to realize it gets tough. It gets tricky. If you're
like the way it is now, we're in a very tricky time. I think it's possibly the same way how we're in so-called confusion now is how they were confusion by the Chet Egel and by Kairach and V'chul.
100%. If we think, hindsight is 2020. Oh, if I was a Yid waiting by the Yam Suf, of course I would go and jump in with Nachshon ben Aminadav. Actually, if you were there back then, if you would probably be among those that say, well, I don't know, Hashem said v'yisou, we should go, but I mean, there's the water. What am I supposed to do? Am I supposed to walk into the water and commit suicide? It's usur to commit suicide. This is against halacha. No, that's a crazy idea. That's wrong. That's incorrect. We have to see. I don't know. We have to wait. We have to figure it out. Hey, look at that. Nachshon ben Aminadav is going and walking into the water. Mishuganer, crazy guy. He's committing suicide. He's ma'abid atzmo ladas. That's asra pitera. He's crazy. I don't know why he's doing that. He shouldn't be doing that. It's very possible.
Why are people not getting the point? How many times do we need to go through this? That we see from time after time that the Meshuggah was always right.
So sometimes, it took the Meshuggah approach sometimes to get through it, but really, it's the least Meshuggah. Like he's Meshuggah in the right way, in the good way. If
the Rebbe said about himself that he's crazy about Mashiach.
100%. There we go. And what again comes down to is not whether we are Meshuggah or not. What it comes down to is, are we really, really, really in tune to the emes or not? Nachshon ben Aminadav was simply just really, really, really in tune to the emes, and he realized, I don't know. The emes is the Eibishter said v'yisou. I am doing v'yisou. Everyone is throwing rocks and yelling at me. I'm going. And Pinchas ben Elazar. And you know what? Sometimes it wasn't so simple. Sometimes it was a tricky situation. Chur got stoned to death because he was calling out the truth by the Chet Egel. He was saying, no, we miscalculated. Moshe Rabbeinu is coming back tomorrow, and they stoned him to death.
That's a very interesting point. It could be that there was something about what he did that was wrong. My personal opinion. Maybe he basically he was extreme. Yes, he was right. Yes, he was right. Moshe Rabbeinu was coming back, but it's not the way you tell people. Aaron's approach was better. No?
Arguably, that's maybe taka the lesson that we can learn from that is that Chur was right, but it said on his metzeva that he was right. This person was right. What do we have from that?
Exactly.
We need
it's like right. Even if you're right that the Rebbe is Mashiach, but it's not the way you tell people by smacking them on the head that the Rebbe is Mashiach. You got to do it in the Ba'if and a Miskabel.
Or we got to do it in a way that Moshiach, the same Moshiach that you're trying to promote, would be happy of, aka having a Yisrael with another Yid. Like, hello, that's what Moshiach that you're even trying to teach and promote is even Bechlal all about. Not, step on our own toes as we're trying to teach the whole Moshiach thing. But there's a whole other side to that and a deeper discussion. We have to go into that tangent at some point also, because the argument becomes, yes, but sometimes you got to really give it a push and then it comes through. Or sometimes when the opposition is really strong, you got to do something extra. And there are a lot of chassidus and a lot of stories to support this concept that you just pull through it and you just push through it anyway, and then you succeed and the Eibishter helps you. So we have to go into that tangent at some point also. But I wanted to come back to the current point about the magic Mashiach moment, that those nevuos will happen, but we have to get rid of that checklist that only if it happens in this way that I thought, that I expect that it should be happening, that my parents taught me, that Uncle Maishi taught me, that Mordechai ben David taught me, that in this magic moment, suddenly Mashiach will appear. If it happens that way, then it is Mashiach. As long as it didn't happen that way, I am not convinced it's Mashiach. Therefore, I don't agree. I'm cynical. I'm skeptical. I don't participate. In fact, maybe I'm a detractor. I'm against. We have to realize, guess what? Where in Torah did you necessarily find a makar that it dafka has to be this way or that way? There are Makaides in Torah, and we're talking about Rambam now, Sima Rambam, right at the end of the halachis of Rambam, that tell us specifically how the whole Moshiach thing is supposed to happen. And it tells us what you told us. It can happen in a natural way. It can happen in a way that takes time and takes progression, and it happens. Olam kimin hagay noyeg, and the signs how to tell that someone is Cheskas Moshiach and Moshiach Vadei, etc., etc. It says all these things in Torah. We should just consult Torah and be a real, sincere, genuine Yid that realizes, I really want Moshiach. Therefore, I'm not enough with the myth that it has to be this way, and if it's not this way, we have to double check ourselves. Why do I dafka want Moshiach to only be the flying down from the sky thing? Where does that come from? Why do I feel and think that way? Is it because really maybe I have a bit of a unfamiliarity fear about Moshiach? Maybe there's an issue that we're a little bit scared of this whole Moshiach thing, like the funny, famous story, which the punchline of it is that the wife told back to her husband, well, guess what? The Eibishter saved us from Haman Rasha. The Eibishter saved us from Parai. The Eibishter will also save us from this concept you're telling me about that the rabbi spoke about in your shtibel, that Moshiach is coming. The Eibishter will also save us from this Moshiach who will take us out of our house and bring us to this other unfamiliar land, and we'll be doing sacrificing animals there. The Eibishter will save us from this too, which speaks to this idea of the fear, the unfamiliarity that people have with this whole Mashiach thing. Oh, I don't know about all that. It seems scary. It seems biblical. It seems very, very epic and esoteric, and like we're just going to sit all day and just do learning Torah and doing mitzvahs, and that's it. I'll tell you what, I'm having a pretty okay life how I am. I have my job, I have my work, I have my nice car. The Rebbe speaks about this concept, about a Yid in Manhattan who has his Jaguar. He has his Jaguar, and he's worried that Moshiach will come, and maybe that'll affect him having his Jaguar. And the Rebbe says he doesn't need to worry, because if he uses his Jaguar for good and for Torah and for mitzvahs, that will serve a purpose in the Dira B'Tachtonim and will come with him to Geula, etc., etc. We have to work on that. Why am I afraid or scared of Geula? Why am I finding ways to be skeptical and cynical about Geula? And what can I do to help that and to develop a positive attitude about it and to get in the direction of pro-Geula? Yes, I want it to happen. Maybe it is happening. As a sincere Yid that exists in Golus, that exists in the world, I want to genuinely, sincerely call out to the Eibishter and say, Eibishter, please give us Mashiach. And I'm going to be a seeking, looking Yid that sincerely looks around and seeks, hey, maybe, is it happening? Can I see that it's happening? The Eibishter is answering us. Things are developing in the world. Can I look around? Do we maybe have someone that says that in every generation there is someone who's roi to be Mashiach? I am so curious and yearning and seeking for Mashiach. I'm wondering, who is the one in our generation? Maybe I could even look around and find someone who fits that bill, etc., etc. If we sincerely, genuinely understand what it's really on about, rather than the, politicized and just knee-jerk reaction and mythical Moshiach magic moment, impressions of what Moshiach and Geula is about.
Right. So that you're done talking about the magic Moshiach moment.
Yeah.
So, I mean, there was something else you wanted to speak about, but on this topic. So, how do you think the approach should be? Instead, how should we teach Mashiach to children instead of just telling them about these miracles? What should be the approach, specifically children? Because we know we need this not to water it down, but it has to be understandable. So how do we do that?
I think the way we've been teaching it so far is good. All the prophecies and all the grandiose magic Mashiach moment stuff are still true and still need to be taught. We just have to tweak and add onto that. So, for example, I feel this personally, and with my own children, I really want to make sure they get a sense of that it's as real as the fork on the table. So when we sit down to eat supper, we got to bring the forks. And if we don't have the forks, we have to eat with our hands. Like it's mamash practical. It's literally, we could talk about nice, fancy stories about forks and theories and good lessons and deep Torah inyanim about forks, but then it comes down to lepoil. Like, we need a fork to pick up the supper and eat it. And for some reason, there's a little bit of a divide in that when it comes to certain Torah mitzvahs things, Eibishter things, Chassidus things, and Moshiach things. That when we talk about Tachlis, the fork on the table, that's like for real. That is literally a fork in the drawer that I'm going to take out and bring and have here. But somehow Moshiach gets a pass. Moshiach is something that we say it's coming, it should be coming, it is here, it's coming. But worst case, if it didn't actually come, shrug emoji. Am I doing it right? Is this the shrug emoji?
Yeah. Yeah.
Worst case, if it didn't come on the table like the fork, then it is what it is. You know how it is. You know how it is with Mashiach. You know, we say he's coming. We say Yehi he should be coming. Let me tell you, my child, how this works. When you're younger, you're too naive to realize that we kind of shove that under the table. But as you grow older, you get more and more used to this is how it works. We talk about Mashiach. We say it's a thing. Ideally, it would be a thing. It would be a nice thing. Ostensibly, it should be happening. It would, it could, it should. But at the end of the day, if it didn't happen yet, I got to go to bed now. We're going to go put on our pajamas and we're going to go to bed. And tomorrow is another day and we go back to work and we go back to school. And you know how it is. That's how it is. The fork is real. And Moshiach, it's okay if it's lav davka that all the way.
So how do we make it practical? How do we make it the real, like the fork, as real as the fork?
So, and this might be a good thing to finish off of, because I just remembered I have something at 6 o'clock in 8 minutes. So let's draw it to a conclusion with that. But we should probably continue and follow up, because there's a lot more tensions to go on. Okay, good question. How do we make it real for the kids?
That's a great way to end off. Something practical to take away.
There we go.
The takeaway. Yeah.
Perfect. So here's what I'm doing with my kids, or at least I'm trying my best. I'm really trying to give them a sense of, it really comes down like everything else in chinuch. If it's real, then they really get a sincere sense that Tati and Mami are also doing it. So, if I want them to learn good midos and cleanliness and, tucking in their shirt and valuing Torah and mitzvahs and learning Torah and going to shul and davening, then the most important thing to do is to be a dugma chaya. When they see it's important for me, so much so that Tati goes to shul and Tati wears a clean shirt and Tati is, cleaning and learning and Torah and mitzvahs and whatever, then it becomes real for them. So I think it's very important I try to do this with my kids as best as I can. If they see that Tati is something on the ball with Moshiach, something, he is talking about it like it's like, just like they hear Tati talking about the latest phone that came out, or the new closet that we have to install in the house, or we got to prepare for Pesach. They hear Tati talking about as a real practical thing that there's a plan about it. There's something that's going to be coming out of it, lepoil, a plan, a project, an idea, a future concept that we're talking about with other people. He's on the ball about something with Moshiach. He could have just left it as a Yehi Ratzain, a nice concept, an idea, but for some reason, no. Tati has a plan to go talk with these people, or going on this interview with this Rebbe Levi Mishulavin, or there is this Fabringen that is planned, or there is this project or this booth on the street to talk to people, or these announcements that we do sometimes in 770. Tati has something going on that he's on the ball about it, that Moshiach is a real thing that is really going to be happening, as opposed to perhaps another situation that could have happened, which is that everything else in life really happens. We really go to school, we really go to shul, we really go to sleep, we really eat, we really whatever. But the Moshiach thing is just something that, it's a nice thing, but only the Eibishter is going to bring Moshiach. Only the Rebbe is going to bring Moshiach. Only when the time is right, then it's going to happen. Happen is such a passive word. When it happens, then it's going to happen. We are just the passengers here, sitting back, relaxing and enjoying. And when it happens, then it's going to happen. The Rebbe for so many years has been trying to teach us, make it happen. And I made that a little bit of my tagline. Make it happen. Don't just wait it for it to happen. Make it happen. And I think it's important to give the impression to each other, to our kids, to our friends, to our peers, just like they know, oh, where are you going to camp? Where are you going for Pesach? What's your plans tomorrow? Which mikvah are you going to? You have a bike or a scooter? Similar to that, also, what is your practical next step plan to make a real thing that it's really happening, that Moshiach is here, and we're spreading the word, and we're spreading the awareness. And I go around driving as many people crazy as I can about this, also because regardless of my kids, I really just want to know what is going on. What is the plan? What are we on about? I would expect there to be some sort of HQ meeting in a big oval office somewhere that we get around the table and we say, all right, guys, Big Bro is not going to do it for us. We are Big Bro now. We're the young new generation. We got to brainstorm together, come up with ideas, and make this happen. And it can't be that hard. Come on. Have you seen what's going on out there in the world? Every random guy and their grandmother and their grandmother's dog has a YouTube channel and a TikTok, which get millions and millions of views about all sorts of shtusim in the world, about their new car that they bought and their new shtusim this. And I'm going to go on the street today and I'm going to jump in middle of the road and dance on a car and I don't know what, right? Look at all that going on in the world. And what are we doing? We're just walking home and walking to shul and walking to school and doing our regular everyday same thing as always. We could be doing such amazing things and we should be. So what are we waiting for? Let's get our act together and do that. And I think even that itself, just putting it out there in the world, the feeling that it's happening, we're on the ball, we're on the case. It's a real thing. It's not just something that at the end of a Fabring and L'chaim, you hear Ratzon Mashiach should come. No, also I have a plan about it. I have a schedule about it. I have something to follow up about it. There's something that's going to be happening about it. I think that's very important. What are your thoughts on that?
I agree. That's a very well said. And yeah, I don't want to make you late. Definitely we'll do a part 2. No, I honestly, I agree. It's not like I want to say add something. Thank you very much, Yisrael. So like this video for part 2. And can't wait till next time. Have a wonderful day and Mashiach now. And you hear us saying, and the plan to bring Mashiach is to make a part 2.
Oh, excellent. Very, very good. This is what I love so much about what you're doing and with your program is that it is a plan. You have a schedule. You have a thing. If anyone came down to you and asked you, hey, Levi Shulavin, what was your concrete plan to bring Geula? You have one. And by the way, don't be limited by just this. There's a lot more to be done. But this is amazing.
I'm gonna make YouTube shorts out of this video.
Amazing. Perfect. Wonderful.
Amazing. Thank you, Reb Yisroel. All right.
Now.
Moshiach now.